Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, sorry to into R&B, but we have to.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, welcome to our special presentation. 60 black packs, 60 black plaques and Nubian jacks. Bit of a tongue twister. We played a bit of R&B there because the star of today's event used to be a singer back in the old days, and maybe you'll drop some bars later on. But apart from that, on the screen in front of you, you can see some of our upcoming events. So Black History Walks organizes walks, talks, and films every single month of the year, all year long for the last 15 years now. And on the screen in front of you, you can see some of our upcoming events, which can be booked online via our website or also via the Eventbrite page you booked this event on in the first place. So there's lots of events to choose from, and at least half of the events you see there are absolutely free. So for this presentation, we're going to take Q questions and answers after the speakers have finished talking. So once our speaker,
I'm unaware.
Jack, your microphone's on, so I can hear what you're saying.
Sorry.
Cool.
Sorry, brother.
Once the speakers finish talking, we'll take questions and answers using the chat function. And I think people have all used Zoom by now. The chat function is at the bottom in the outline in red, and basically just type your questions in there. And we'll take questions that come after the presentation is over. And just to point out, this event is brought to you from via Black History Walk, also via the Sarah Parker Remond Center, which we'll mention in more detail later on. So I mentioned Black History Walks already. We do walks, talks, and films each month of the year, all year long. These are just some of the events we've organized the last 15 years or so. It's films and talks and walks and bus tours and Black History river cruises. So we've got 12 different walks, north, east, south, and west London, and we take people around the capital for about 2 hours at a time and show them all the hidden African Caribbean history and stories in the streets, in the architecture, in the buildings, because there's lots of it there if we know what to look for. We also show films. So there's a big cinema called the BFI South Bank, which is right next to Waterloo Tube Station. And one Saturday per month, we have 3 hours of fantastic African Caribbean diasporic film content. We put the films on. These are some films we've shown. And also we have a Q&A. So it's the only such project in the entire country. It's been done for 15 years. And there are some fantastic, amazing films that we show. In fact, Menlit Shabazz, the great Black British filmmaker, has just passed on. And we've shown practically all of his films at the BFI South Bank for the last 15 years. And we're hoping, or not hoping, we're planning to have a retrospective of him at some time in the near future. We have to wait for a few things to come into place before that, but we'll be recognizing his amazing contribution of Menlit Shabazz in the near future. I mentioned the Black History River Cruise, and basically we have a double-decker boat. It goes down to Vauxhall up to Greenwich, and on the way we show people all the African Caribbean history that's in the river itself and on either side of the river. And on top of that, we have people in costume on board the ship, or boat rather, who tell you about their personal history. So we have actors playing major characters from Black history. So it could be Nanny, it could be Phyllis Wheatley, it could be Queen Amanirenas. And while they're on board the ship in costume, they will also tell you their story. So the next one's going to be the 29th of August. Our book, Black History Walks in London, comes out this year. It should have come out last year, but there was something called the coronavirus, which delayed it by a whole year. So this is supposed to come out like September, October last year. But it'll be coming out this year, and basically it's a collection of different walks in London in a book form with about 400 pictures, about 25 different maps, and it gives you a viewpoint of Black history in the streets of London, which includes education, religion, politics, housing, etc. So on this one, but that's coming out shortly. Now, this event is being recorded, and if you want to check out the recording, all you got to do is go to this website or this YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel titled youtube.com/Black History Walks. And that's where you can go to find about 230 odd different Black British history videos. And all the stuff we've done with the UCL Sarah Parker Remond Center has been put on this website. So you can check out some of the interesting stuff we've been doing. In fact, you see the bottom middle video there. It says British slave owners tracking the money in the stores of Indian slaves. Well, that video, that presentation had 2,300 people wanting to attend it. So they couldn't all get into the room, but they can actually access it now if you go to that website. So let us now begin with 60 Black Plaques and Nubian Jack, part 1 and 2, because initially this is supposed to be a one-off, kind of a single event. But when you look at the amount of work Nubian Jack has done, it can't be done. You can't cover it in like 2 hours. It's just too much work. Because even if we spoke about the 60 plaques for 2 minutes each, that's just not enough. So this is part 1 of 2. There'll be another part in the near future, and we'll see how far we can get into the amazing, extensive work of Mr. Nubian Jack in this 2-hour session. But let's crack on. So we're going to go through a number of different plaques, and they're set out in this format. There's a number of the plaque, name and address of the person who's been respected, color, and also the date. We're going to go through these individual plaques, and Nubian Jack is there, and we'll ask some questions. I'll ask some questions as we go along, and at the end of the presentation, you get to ask some questions too. All right, so this is for Bob Marley. Mr. Jack, Mr. Nubian Jack, what would you like to tell us about this particular plaque? Was this your first plaque ever?
It was my first plaque, Tony, but the first thing I want to say is good evening. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. It's a pleasure to be here. And I like to say hello to the wonderful people out there who could, of course, be watching Corrie, but decided to listen to us. So thank you all for joining in this platform. Tony, it's 62 plaques, not 60. It's okay. 62. We did 2 last week, which we'll come on to later. But yeah, Bob Marley was the very first of the 62 plaques that we have done.
And how easy was it to get a plaque to Bob Marley back in 2006?
A beautiful question. That was like giving birth to this plaque scheme, Tony, because it was very difficult. I'm not saying births are difficult, but it was my first plaque. So we was navigating in a space that we were unfamiliar with. And Bob himself, we had 3 addresses, 2 of which we got rejected for. And the final one, which we got accepted for, as it is in the heavens, it was meant to be, because that was the first address he ever lived in 1972. The flat itself belonged to Johnny Nash. And we were really fortunate to have the support of Rita Marley, and the whole Marley family for that matter. Without making these answers too long, it was a beautiful plaque to do, because I found myself entering onto a journey, an adventure that I had no idea would culminate in, well, currently 62, but it's going to culminate in over 100, hopefully.
Wow. So what triggered you to set up this plaque in the first place? You just walking on the street, thought, let me stick a plaque, or was there something more to it than that?
It was a bit more to it than that. I did a board game called Nubian Jack. You probably, the audience can't see me, so we'll look at the screen. I had a board game here, but I'll show you that later. And it was quite successful, actually. I sold 120,000 copies of it, I must say, within a 10-year period, by the way. So, didn't make that much money at the time, but it was a very successful way to introduce African history, Black history, to both our community and the wider community as well. And as a result of the success of that, I was approached by English Heritage, because they had at the time 15 plaques to people from a diverse culture, 6 to people of African heritage, and 9 to people of an Asian background. And they wanted those plaques to be better known, Tony. So I devised a treasure trail, which was a success. It was a PR success, but it was a practical, not disaster. It was practically impractical, if I could put it that way, because you had the 15 plaques all over different parts of London. And to do a treasure trail all over different parts of London, you need a car and a vehicle. So so that's how I got into plaques.
All right. And who attended this first plaque unveiling? Who came along?
Perfect. So I kind of wanted to just end my segment there. What actually happened was that's not how I got into plaques. That's how I was introduced to plaques. And then after the success of it, I said to English Heritage, why don't you do a plaque to Bob Marley? Bob Marley has got, appeal to all cultures, all people of all backgrounds, all races and democratics, demographics even. And they said it was too bureaucratic, Tony.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
To install a plaque usually took like 5 to 10 years.
5
Honestly.
to 10 years.
Yeah. It's a long bureaucratic process because there's a lot of people in line to get plaques. And you're talking about, a quango, you're talking about an offshoot of the government, and everything has to be politically, bureaucratically signed off. And be fair to them, they said, Jack, it'd be easier if you did the plaque yourself. And true to their word, I opened they helped me, can you believe, English Heritage helped me to create the Nubian Jack Community Trust, helped me to choose the color of blue. And that's how Bob became my first plaque recipient.
Mm.
Who was there? I had the likes of his biographer. I had his photographer. I had Lee Jasper, who at the time was at, is that Marmite word? Okay, I forget about Lee. I had a lot of different people who were all excited about supporting Bob. And it was a success. And I had the BBC, and that created, I have to say this because I have to give a definitive answer to that. When I did the Bob Marley plaque, I was approached by a guy called Anthony Wall, Tony, your namesake there.
Yeah.
And like you break down walls, his name was Tony Wall. And he said, Jack, we'd like to film this Bob Marley plaque because next year is the 30th anniversary of Exodus,
Mm.
And so I played hardball. I said, well, you know what? I don't know, And they said, well, look, we'll film it and you can have all the full film footage. And I still played hardball and they offered me some money. And I said, all right, and he twisted my arm. And then they created this whole documentary using the plaque unveiling, and it's called Exodus 30 Years On Arena.
Is that still available, Jack?
Still available online. Take a look. Exodus.
Okay, let's go Exodus
30 Years On by Arena, BBC Arena. And that was my first plaque, and my first plaque went around the world.
Wow. Okay, cool. Let's check out this plaque now. So we're going to go to Luton, Bedfordshire. And
right.
What can you tell us about this plaque, please?
Before I tell you about this plaque, you're not going to do all 60 plaques, Tony, because this is the second plaque, and I hope you're not going to go and the third and the fourth and the fifth. Okay, I'll follow your lead, brother. The second plaque was to the people of Luton who had been living there or had been part of the town since colonial times, since slavery times, in fact. And that plaque is on Luton Central Library.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This one. This is
This one is like, I've had 62 children because I'm a Jamaican, right? So I've got 62 children. This is my third child, Ignatius Sancho. This plaque is on the Foreign Office.
Mm-hmm.
So I particularly like the idea of honoring a brother and sticking a plaque up on the Foreign Office. I did particularly like that. That gave me a lot of fun. And we can walk past the Foreign Office today and see Ignatius Sancho and Nubian Jack inscribed on the Foreign Office. That's a bit of a trip. But anyway, it's to this wonderful man, wonderfully beautiful man, a man of letters, a musician, who was the only African brother in the 18th century to have a vote in this country.
Wow. And I notice it's a different format to the usual plaque. Is there a reason for that?
There is. I tried to plonk a blue plaque on the building and they said, no, you can't do that. This is a listed building, grade 2 at that, grade 2 star to boot. And if you want a plaque up, bruv, you've got to put it in the same stone. And that's the way they said it to me. You got to put it up. Okay, all seriousness, you've got to complement the architecture of the building. So that stone there is the same as the Foreign Office stone. And that's how it was able to be put up.
Right. And I noticed this is 2007. Wasn't that the 200th anniversary of the abolition of the slave trade in the British Empire?
Exactly. And to be honest with you, it was probably how I got the plaque up, or how my team and I got the plaque up, because if it wasn't the bicentenary, they may likely have found an excuse. Because I got to tell you, they said no to the blue plaque.
Mm.
So that was the first pushback. You see, that's a secret in life, Don't let people tell you no. So I came back, and the rest is history. Yeah, it was part of the abolition, the bicentenary of the abolition of the Slave Trade Act, known as BASTA.
And it's still there right now. You can go and take a picture of it. It's right. Actually, it's on the main tourist route as well. So that's a big achievement.
Do you use it as part of your walk, Tone?
When we do the bus tour, yeah, but not
Yeah.
depends which walk we do. But normally it's the bus tour. We point that one out.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay.
Up the road there in Camden. Now this location is not far from Tottenham Court Road, from Good Street, from also Warren Street and Russell Square. And
Yeah.
part of the UCL or Senate House, I think it is.
It is. It's actually placed on Senate House on Maddox Street.
Okay.
And it was where Mary Prince used to live. And below is a depiction of the family she stayed with. And above the picture is, you'll see somebody called, I forgot her name now. She's the premier of, there's Maura Stewart, and the lady on the right of her is something Cox. I forgot her name. She was the premier of Bermuda, and she flew over to unveil the plaque. Can you believe?
Wow.
Yeah. So what do you want to know? So the plaque's on it's a bronze plaque, and it was to reference this abolitionist and indomitable spirit who had a harrowing life, it must be said. What I will say is that plaque was actually paid for by the descendant of the man who made her life hell. This guy was seeking. This is what reparation kind of looks like in the peanut form. But I accepted his, I think it was $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever it was for the plaque, and he felt atoned that his wicked ancestor, and his ancestor was a terrible man. He tried to go some way to putting something right.
But I think this plaque triggered something greater later on, because I'm fairly sure that a couple of years ago in Bermuda, there's like either a national day or a monument in her honor. Is that correct? As far as you know, Jack?
As far as I know, I had nothing to do with that, but I'd love to claim that. If you've given me the accolade, it's the first I'm hearing of it. I believe there is, and so there should be, because she's a phenomenal woman. I must say, she disappears from history though after she becomes free, or after she is granted her she was born with. You know what I mean? She disappears from history. Fascinating.
Well, actually, she wrote a book. I think it's called The History of Mary Prince, and it's a really compelling, what we call a slave narrative, which gives you a real insight into what Black women had to suffer and undergo.
Absolutely. It was the very first account by a Black woman on slavery. The first woman to write in English was Phyllis Wheatley. I don't know if you'll come to her, but Mary Prince was the first, to write about the horrors of slavery.
Yeah, and actually, for the people who are watching, you can actually Google Mary Prince right now and see if there is some sort of recognition of Mary Prince in Bermuda that links into this plaque, because I'm fairly sure that as a result of this plaque, there was like a knock-on effect, and something happened in Bermuda, or was it Turks and Caicos, in recognition of Mary Prince. I'm fairly sure that.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, Jack, can you identify that sound?
$6 Million Man.
For those who've never heard the $6 Million Man, this is where it comes from. So let's just remind ourselves, got a blast from the past. If this is going to work, because there's a slight delay of the internet, it seems. So let me press it again. Give it a couple of seconds.
Oh my God, am I right? There's no way I'm right.
You are right. I'm just going to make sure this.
Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, stronger, faster.
Now that was the thing to watch back in the 70s. Am I correct, Jack?
100%, brother.
All right. And you might wonder, what's that doing in there? Well, that is to look at, what was your childhood like, if you don't mind telling us, right? Because obviously you're the main man when it comes to putting up plaques now, but I'm just wondering, what was your life like as a youth growing up there in the Grove, I believe you grew up, is that right?
Yeah, 100%. But the first thing I want to say is I'm amazing, man. I'm amazing. I had no idea that you was going to show that clip. So I made for three, can't hold out for two. I remember him saying that. Do you remember? Made for three, she's breaking up and stuff. What was my life like? Well, I don't really want to bore people, but I had a very interesting apprenticeship in Ladbroke Grove as a youth, as a bad boy youth still. Well, that's what the bad boy business comes when I'm a teenager. But before that, I was a good little Christian boy, going to church, playing the piano for my grandmother, who had started a church. And I was a good innocent boy who learned to read before I went to school. I learned to read at 3, by the way. At the age of 3, I learned to read. Thought I'd mention that. And it all started with, of course, the Bible. You get me? You wouldn't think the way I speak, I learned to read at 3, you know what I mean? But there you go. It was lovely. It was innocent. It was multicultural, multi-dynamic, and the world was remember, I'm a kid, right? A Christian kid at that. So the world was a nice place to be.
Yeah.
And it had no notion of the wickedness that I was subsequently going to learn about. But yeah, it was nice, is the answer.
When you was a kid growing up watching $6 Million Man and Star Trek, what did you want to do when you grew up, so to speak?
Right. So my nickname as a kid was Shaft. So
was it?
Yeah, they used to there was a joke in there, but I'm gonna leave it clean. We're gonna keep it clean. One of my heroes, of course, was Richard Roundtree. So I was one of those guys, just like you, Tony, who was influenced by what I saw on TV. So I had an Oyster card thing, but my Oyster card was my identity. I was a detective, and that's why my friends called me Shaft. And I was influenced by Steve Austin. I used to pick my friends up in slow motion and try to throw, and all the rest of it. Which goes to show you the power of the medium, the power of the visual art, and what it can do and have an effect it can have on our children,
All right. And speaking of influence and young people and legacy, this is Connie Mark. Off you go, Mr. Jack.
Okay, so Connie was a friend of mine. She typed my very first book, The Shape of Kings to Come. I used to go down to a basement flat in Shepherd's Bush. She was an amazing pioneer, World War II auxiliary administrator, it must be said. She wasn't quite a nurse, but she was an auxiliary worker, and she was a campaigner, or one of our leading lights, like Dame Jocelyn Bauer and the like. Yeah. She was a pioneer for black rights, and she also helped to bring the story of Mary Seacole much more to the fore. When she died, before she died, we did a plaque to Mary Seacole, by the way, which was my second plaque. So the first plaque I didn't mention, the first plaque I did was to CLR James. That was on behalf of English Heritage. My second plaque was to Mary Seacole, because we couldn't get Bob Marley in Westminster. And it was my pleasure to bring her. It was her very last gig. It was her very last outing, because by then she had a stroke. And we helped, she helped to unveil the plaque. Well,
she was there for it.
She was there. I got the photograph. She was in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
I think I collected her. I actually think I collected her. Honest to God, I think I collected her. Where she was living at the time was a place called Mary Seacole House. I'm 100% sure I collected her. Of course I collected her. And she was in a wheelchair. She had a stroke by then. And we drove down to the place. She unveiled the plaque. Elizabeth Onuwaru was there, and the Dame Carleen Davis, who
Mhm.
was head of the Royal College of Midwives at the time.
Mm.
And a year later, she transitioned.
Wow. And the thing
Yeah.
about Connie Marks is that people, I'm not sure they fully appreciate how influential she was when it came to Black history in general, but in particular Mary Seacole.
Yeah.
She was a pioneer to actually having
Yeah.
that name recognized
Yeah,
around
she was.
the world. I mean, she kicked off, she set the ball rolling actually.
She
And
did. She did.
that,
Uh,
when it comes
yeah.
to World War II and the War Museum, she had gone around the Caribbean and around Britain collecting, memorabilia from different World War II veterans that she knew and served with. Then she
Right.
collected into one space and actually then put on the exhibition at Imperial War Museum, which is now part of what you call the We Were There exhibition, if I remember correctly.
Amazing, amazing. Yes, yes. Someone asked where was the plaque installed. It was George Street. We placed the plaque up in George Street, which is just off Edgware Road. I mean, Connie was phenomenal. I must be honest, it was Deirdre and another lady from Brent who produced this little pamphlet on Mary Seacole, which is how I got introduced to Mary Seacole. And I think that was how a lot of people, came to the party, which was Mary Seacole.
Yeah, Mary Seacole is another kind of legend. But
Yeah.
we have to kind of remember these people. And what you've done here is you've literally made a memorial for Connie Marks, so people
Yeah.
will know about her if they just walk past the place.
Yeah. And it's placed on Mary Seacole House, by the way.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have a little surprise for you.
Oh my God.
I know some of you are studying someone called Mary Seacole on your national curriculum. And did you know, none of that would have been possible without a certain lady called Connie Mark. And today, we have honoured Constance Winifred MacDonald, also known as Connie Mark, with a blue plaque.
I'm the chair, Dr. Dorian Wilson, of the Nubian Jack Community Trust. This plaque, this blue plaque, commemorates what Connie was all about. As you can see, also known as Connie Mark, born in 1923, died in 2007.
My name is Glenda Ford. Mary Seacole Memorial Association was set up in 1980 by Connie Mark, myself, and some others who are founder members, but we consider Connie to be our spearheader. And together, we've all put Mary Seacole on the British map and on the world map. So everything, the statue and the curriculum, everything comes out in education, comes out of Mary Seacole Memorial Association. And Connie, you'll be so proud that we will never ever forget you, and we remember you today. Nice to see you again, darling. I'm sure you're looking down on us.
Let us pray. Father, today we thank you for another opportunity to honor the lives of one of those great individuals who've made significant contributions here in the United Kingdom. Thank you for the life of Connie, Lord.
Good afternoon. My name is Eileen Olwokin, and I'm honored and humbled to take part in the late Miss Connie Marks commemoration blue plaque ceremony. Love, joy, and peace. That is the legacy of Miss Connie Mark, BEM and MBE, and many thanks.
Connie is now late. She's gone on. And we are left to take the baton and run with passion and vigor, that we ourselves too will leave a legacy and not just be celebrating and acknowledging the plaque of those who have gone on, but I hope that by extension we ourselves can leave marks in this society. Ladies and gentlemen, I do thank you and wish you a successful 2019 and beyond.
All right, Jack, anything you want to say on that?
Well, you can see that I was trying to audition for Steptoe and Son, as you can see. But you know what, John? Some people are saying they can't hear. Is there anything we could do with the sound? I don't know.
Can't hear what? What kind
They
of
can't hear the presentation, your wonderful presentation. Just a few people
There's
are.
nothing I can do because the mic is on and it's showing it's working, so it might be at their end, but there's nothing I can do from this side.
Yes, yes. Okay, bro. We'll do our best. Yeah, absolutely. No, nothing else to add to that. It was a beautiful day. It was the second time, by the way, we'd honored her, because her first plaque was they tried to steal it. So that was the second.
They tried to steal it.
They tried to steal it. They said they there was a time when blue plaques were being taken down and smelted down for the silver and bronze that it was worth. Yeah, and Connie's was one of those. So we had to redo it. They damaged it. They couldn't get it off the building, but they damaged it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, that video seemed to be a homemade video. Is that correct?
It looked pretty homemade, didn't it? That's a nice way of saying it. Didn't look very professional, Jack. It was homemade. I thought to call out somebody, but I can't remember who did it. So,
oh well, I mean, the fact is, if it wasn't for that person, then we wouldn't have that visual record. And I think it's
there you go.
a good thing to do. And that's one thing I did learn from you, Jack, is that when it comes to putting up these iconic plaques to recognize our heroes from the past, you can't really depend upon the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, because those guys don't come half the time. So what I learned from you is to make sure I have to appear and have my own video person there to film it. Otherwise, you don't have that record.
Great point, brother. Something I've learned along the way. Very good. Yeah.
Claudia Jones, the legend that is Claudia Jones. It seems you put up 2 plaques to her. Is that correct?
She's the only plaque recipient that has received 3 plaques off me.
Oh.
I'll explain how it is. Currently, there is 2 plaques. The bronze one there is in Carnival Village, which is known as Tabernacle. And the one on the left, the blue plaque on the left, is a revised plaque. I did an earlier version, and I created uproar, or we created uproar, my team created uproar, because sadly, there's a school of thought that would not accept Claudia Jones as the mother of Notting Hill Carnival. They wanted another person who you may not have, but I'll call her out. Her name is, what's her name? Ronnie Lasler, a white woman for that matter, who helped to introduce the thread that we now know as Notting Hill Carnival. And that came through her instigating and getting the road closed to create something called the Notting Hill Fair in 1965. Claudia Jones, in 1958, as we all know, there was an uprising in Notting Hill, and Claudia Jones decided in January 1959, sorry, brain freeze here, to do the very first Caribbean Carnival in Britain. But it was indoors, but it was to the victims of Notting Hill.
That's right.
And she did that every year until her death in 1964. She created a carnival for Notting Hill, but she never did a carnival on the streets of Notting Hill. That took place, I just want to quickly tell the people so they understand the thread. That took place in 1965 when this white woman got together and got everybody together, the Africans, the Arabs, the Indians, the Irish and everything, and West Indians, and had this multicultural fair because she wanted us all to get along. Nice woman. But out of that fair, a group of 3 Trinidadian musicians took to the streets they were put in a little, what do you call it, youth club. They were put in a little youth club and nobody was coming to see them. So they said, you know what, ban that. They went out on the street with their pans around their necks and walked around Ladbroke Grove. And in doing so, in a half-an-hour walk, they changed the history of post-war Britain because they were like Pied Pipers. Everyone started coming out the window. This has nothing to do with Ronnie, by the way. Ronnie just provided the space for all these different groups, and one particular group created a spark, which later became the Notting Hill Carnival.
And just to remind people, Claudia Jones was Trinidadian. In Trinidad, they had their carnival in February, which is over there. But of course, in England, it'll be freezing. Therefore, you're not going to have carnival in the street in February because it'd be too cold. Therefore, she had her carnival indoors.
And exactly, and the other connection to her and why she's inextricably linked to Notting Hill Carnival, because the uprising that took place was in the August bank holiday.
Yeah.
That's when the Notting Hill Carnival takes place. The uprising in Notting Hill, which Claudia referenced for her carnival, was to reference the uprising in August bank holiday. So it's extraordinary, her synergy and connection with Notting Hill Carnival, because she is the mother of Caribbean Carnival in this country.
And some of the money she raised from her carnival was used to pay the bail of young black men who were unfairly arrested by the police, who were harassing black people back in the 50s. Of course they were. So she has a massive story that's not that long gone.
Absolutely.
And
I just want to say one more thing. However, even though she's the goddess of carnival in this country, to minimalize her to that would be doing a disservice, because this woman is a phenomenon. She's a writer, an author, a thinker, a political strategist. She's even big in America. She gets thrown out of America. She gets thrown out of America. You're talking about Trinidad. Trinidad said, we don't want her. She's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And so the British said, okay, we'll have her. And she comes over here and she creates the first black newspaper. You know, first black weekly newspaper. The woman is in the nicest sense a monster. She's amazing.
And she's working with Paul Robeson and all these kind of big names.
So she deserves 3 plaques, bro, for real.
Cool. The same year of the first Claudia Jones Carnival in '59, this young man was stabbed to death in the same Notting Hill area.
Yes.
Off you go, Mr. Jack.
He was the original Stephen Lawrence. This gentleman here, Kelso Cochran, from Antigua, I believe he was, an Antiguan carpenter. And one day he's coming home with his boo, with his chick, with his girlfriend, sorry, for the politically correct in there who ready to jump down my throat. And he gets jumped, or as my son would say, he gets shanked by 2 white guys. I think it was 3 white guys, 2 or 3 white guys anyway. They stabbed him, and sadly he didn't make it. But as is with the nature of racism is, we have to be careful we don't get, well, I'm talking about me, because there was a time when I was consumed by reacting to racism, and stories like this punctuate the point of why it's not always good to get drawn in to the evil that is, because it was 3 other white guys, or 3 white men, I think, who subsequently came to his aid and tried to prop the brother up and tried to save his life while he was taking his last few breaths on this planet. And they did their best to save him, but as I said, alas, he didn't make it. And Notting Hill, you know, came together, black and white. And I'm not Martin Luther King, bruv, I'm Nubian Jack, so I'm not, you know, I'm not apologizing and like, you know, kumbaya sort of thing, but I'm just saying that's what happened. And in Notting Hill was really the first truly multicultural community that came together. You know, Liverpool probably, to be fair, Liverpool, they were doing that thing from before the war. But yeah, his death sparked a coming together. And later on, I think it also influenced the first Race Relations Act or something like that. I can't remember, I don't want to conflate things, but yeah, he was our first London martyr.
And also, as you said, in Notting Hill in '58, there were a number of frequent and organized racist attacks on black people, which led to the uprisings. And this was just one of, in fact, many racial attacks upon black people at the time. And the other thing about this is that there was, people knew who the killers were.
Correct.
That was these killers who people knew who they were.
Yeah, that's the thing. The thing about this one, though, this people do often forget this, Tony. This happened after the uprising.
That's right.
So the uprising is '58, and his death is in '59. And yes, he was protected. The killers, there was 2 of them, apparently 3, but 2 of them anyway were protected. And only when the last one died did it come out who he was, which is what I was able to explain when I did this on the 50th anniversary of his murder in 2000.
Yeah, there's actually a book called Murder in Notting Hill. I think it's called Murder in Notting Hill by a guy called Mark Oldham. I forget his last name, but that gives you a lot of more context.
That's the book. That's the book, Tony. That's the book that tells you who the murderer was. He names and shames the murderers. Well, they have no shame in it because they're gone.
And I just got to check, Jack. I mean, because this is a plaque to a murder victim. How did you get permission to put a plaque to a murder victim on this venue?
Well, I got a plaque to do to 13 murdered victims, which you may even come on to. So sometimes, and it's most important you realize, you know, it's not about me. It's not even about Nubian Jack. It's about seizing a moment. And when you do that, then other things happen. So this plaque is put on the site where he died. It's actually a pub, a Notting Hill on the corner of Goulburn Road where I used to live, and the actual road itself where he died. So we just went to the pub, asked him for permission, and Jad did the rest.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Amy Ashwood Garvey. I think she used to live in the Grove, and
Yeah.
I mean that's another amazing, so-called incredible woman. Off you go, Jack.
Tony, you're doing all your Black History Walk tracks. I've noticed this. You know, you're branding yourself. I want a cut of your next walk, bro.
This isn't like this is. I didn't pay for this one. Not this one.
You didn't, but you do all your walk. So anyway, never mind. Amy Ashwood Garvey, take a bow. Come on down, sister. This is Marcus Garvey. If Marcus Garvey, and please forgive me, Marcus, for comparing you to Napoleon. But if Marcus was Napoleon, this was Josephine. She was his Josephine, the yin of his yang, the intellectual equal at very least. Awesome woman, organizer, helped to create the NI. What is it called?
UNIA.
Yeah, UNIA even. Yeah, I'm getting old. Amazing lady, and she had a hostel in Bassett Road where people used to stay. And you remember, this is before Windrush, before the myth that is Windrush. And she has a hostel there, and people are coming to stay there. Some very famous people stayed there, and we were able to memorialize her with a plaque in 2009 at the very site, 2 Bassett Road. She is, like I said, in fact, she couldn't be harnessed. So much so that Marcus said, "You know what, sister, I'm a love you, but why? I'm gonna have to find another Amy." And so done. He found another Amy who is equally as powerful, as wonderful, and as influential, who actually brings us Marcus Garvey's teachings. Teachings as a philosophy is not written by Marcus, it's written by Amy too, Amy Jacks, etc., etc. But anyway, Amy 1, she was a formidable, amazing resource even.
And didn't she also have a restaurant in the West End, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, she did, actually, on that famous street where
Carnaby Street, wasn't it?
Huh?
Wasn't it Carnaby Street?
Carnaby Street. She had a restaurant. Tony, you should be doing blacks, bro. Yeah, she did. I mean, that's the great thing about these people. It shows you that, as you talk about the plaques, they knew no limits. Remember, we're talking pre-war. They went and came, saw, conquered, and left a legacy for us to try and emulate.
Yeah, and Bassett Road is literally 2 minutes walk from Ladbroke Grove Tube Station.
It is literally just off, literally off Ladbroke Grove itself. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The ANC. So we're going to Islington now. This is
Yeah.
a green plaque, which is different from the usual ones. But you got there. What's this all about, Jack?
So I'll tell you a little story about this one. This one is put up on the headquarters of the ANC, which is Penton Street. I was actually talking about it yesterday, and it was erected on the anniversary that Madiba was released from prison. And what happened there was I got permission. I actually wrote off to Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me tell you the thing. I had to write to Cyril Ramaphosa because at the time he was secretary of the ANC, not the leader. And I had to get permission from him, or Nubian Jack had to get permission from him. And of course he approved it. When Islington Council heard about that, they said, oh my God, we've got a green plaque scheme. We'd like to work with you. So I said, well, I don't really need that. I'm doing the blue plaque. And they said, we'll pay you. And I thought, okay, well, so I agreed. And next minute I saw Nubian Jack at the bottom of the plaque and them at the top of the plaque. And I've got $5 in my pocket. And I thought, you know what? This money thing is not working, bruv. Because people can pull a fast one. And I think that's what they did. But anyway, that's the story of that plaque. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful day, actually.
Didn't you have a session in the school for this one?
We did at Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. See, right. You're bringing everything back to me. The magic thing about doing plaques, they're seared into your brain, into my hard drive, into my memory. Yeah. So I actually don't remember them until I start talking about them. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened and that happened. Yeah. So yeah, Elizabeth Garrett Anderson, and I think that's where I met Dr. Margaret Busby for the first time. The amazing, phenomenal, wonderful, irrepressible Dr. Margaret Busby, who's one of my trustees.
Incredible. And hang on, wasn't this the venue that got attacked, was blown up? Because they were It was that
They
one.
tried bombing. Yeah, I think they dropped a bomb on it, and they were it was the anti-apartheid movement, but there's another movement there as well. But yeah, I think they dropped a bomb on it, Tony. Absolutely right. There was no fatalities. I'm not even sure there was any casualties. It was one of those sort of cowardly job, you know what I mean, after dark sort of job.
As I remember, it was in the papers, and it was kind of embarrassing for the Thatcher government because it meant that the South African security services were operating in England,
Yeah,
on English soil and bombing people. So it
yeah,
kind
exactly. Shout out to, I missed her name there. Shout out to the sister who was that Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. Enough respect, sis. And I think she said she went to Starcross, which I don't know what that is. That sounds like another school. But yeah.
Cool.
Someone wants to donate. How do they donate to Nubian Jack Community Trust? Now that's the sort of question Tony should be answering. Answer me. Anyway,
it's coming up, brother. It's coming up. Give me a chance.
that's all right. I'm just having fun here, brother. Please go to I don't even know it myself, do I? Korea Crowdfunder, www.crowdfunder.co.uk. I'll put it. Don't worry. I'll put it up. Don't worry. Okay, say it. My missus is saying say it. Crowdfunder.co.uk/Nubian-Jack. But we'll come to it.
Yeah. Isn't it also on your website too?
It should be. Other people do that. I don't know. I'm really not that organized, you know.
Well, personally. Your website's on the screen there.
Is it on the? Yeah.
Yeah. www.nubianjack.com. And now you can talk about your game, Mr. Jack.
Okay. So I was a social worker. In fact, I'm going to tell everybody how it works. I was actually a singer. In fact, I was a singer. Then I became a model. I was a model for the Face of Interflora for 3.5 years. It was a very, very good campaign. And from that, I used some of that money to do a board game called Nubian Jack, because I was doing it while I was a social worker. And the game was to reference positive role models for Black folk at the time, particularly the Black children I was working with, because their role models at the time was, Frank Bruno, and Linford Christie, and we didn't have many role models. So I thought I'd devise a game and flip it from being Union Jack to Nubian Jack, and that's how the concept was born. And we did 6 editions, 6 versions, sold 120,000 copies, sold some in the United States, won a series of awards, and the game became a phenomenon. There's Dwayne. Is that Dwayne? Dwayne Brown, my brother. Dwayne is a bad boy. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, I have to introduce one of my colleagues and partners right now. His name is Dwayne Brown from Islington Council, and we're going to come on to Islington anyway. But I have to just say, enough respect, big up our crew to brother Dwayne Brown, and Pauline. Pauline's in the house. Listen. Pauline's, it's only because my wife is here, I'm not going to elaborate on Pauline. So let me just leave it at that. Pauline is very beautiful, gorgeous, clever, smart, but I'm not sure she's available. That's the only thing. I never did ask her that bit. But anyway,
Jack, if people want to buy this fantastic board game, how could they do that?
They can't, because it's not available anymore.
Oh, why not?
However, well, there is a new version about to come out, and that's a very good point. So we're about to do a new version. I've been working with Andrew Muhammad and some of his young children from the West Side Young Leaders Academy, and they've helped to research some questions. Outstanding young individuals, amazing, has taught me a lot. And also another school in Hammersmith, which I've forgotten the name, Wendell Park Primary School, and they've helped us. There you go, West Young Leaders Academy. It must be West Side Young Leaders
Academy.
Yeah. Amazing individuals, very, very, very clever individuals. And so basically we researched some new questions for the game, and the game's going to be coming out this October, Black History Month.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Leary Constantine, the world famous cricketer and also Black British civil rights activist. Off you go, Jack.
Yeah, so Lord Leary Constantine was Britain's first Sir, first Knight, and one of the first Caribbean West Indian cricketers. I think he's like in the I don't know if he's the top 3. I mean, probably not, but he's one of the first 5 anyway. He was a barrister. He was a diplomat. was an original bad boy, which you can't put on the plaque. And he was a very bright spark. He was a civil rights campaigner as well. I believe there's a, I forgot what it's called now, Tony, in Russell Square, the International, is it? Intercontinental, I think it is. The Intercontinental, where he was trying to have a drink and they...
it was the Imperial Hotel. He tried to...
The Imperial, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. He tried to book a room, then they kicked him out.
Kicked him out, and so he took them to court. He thought, yeah, you think this is how I go run? And he took them to court and won.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of pleasure and decided not to put a plaque there. So I thought, I'm not going to honor you lot by putting Lord Leary Constantine's plaque there. I'm going to put it on where he lived, in Shoot Up Hill, where he lived. He lived at 11 Kendall Court in Shoot Up Hill, and we did the plaque to him in 2010.
Wow. And there's a link with him and Dr. Harold Moody, because he was also in the League of Colored People, wasn't he? I think.
He probably was. He probably was. He probably was. Yes, he probably was. Just answering one of the questions. And by the way, that plaque is in Camden. Absolutely wonderful. Someone said am I sure? By the way, they're asking me, am I sure the board game's not out? No, the one you see on Amazon, and those are people selling vintage copies. And I can tell you, anybody who has an unopened copy of the original Nubian Jack, which is the yellow box, yellow and green box, I kid you not, if you've got an unopened one, which is extremely unlikely, you will get a 5-figure sum for that. A very high 4-figure sum. These Americans, of course, collector's items, but you'd get, if you've got a pristine, unopened, I tell you why, we only did 1,000 of those. We only did 1,000 of the yellow and green ones. So clearly, if you've got one of those and unopened, you've got the beginning of the Nubian Jack phenomenon right there in your hands. And I wouldn't sell it if I were you, because the longer you keep it, the more you'll be able to give a down payment to your grandchildren's house.
Wow, cool. We're gonna go Brixton. Brixton and a brother called Rudy Narayan. And
love this man. Love this man. Original Guyanese bad boy from Marnin. That's the only way I can describe him. A man who was the most articulate and influential barrister. Okay, let me not over-egg it. He's one of the most I need Miranda to help me here. Competent, there you go, competent barristers, certainly black barristers this country has ever had. But he had a drink problem. So just want to preface that he was human, which is why I loved him even more. Don't go and call him Asian. He was an Indian brother he wasn't Indian. Don't call him, he was a black brother. He would thump you in your face if you called him Indian. He was so proud to be black. It's amazing. And he was a voice for the voiceless in Brixton. And we loved him. And when we did a plaque to him, it was nighttime. We shut down Brixton. We shut down Brixton and put it on where his old chambers used to be. And it was a heavenly sight. And I invited his wife and his girlfriend. His wife and girlfriend came. Because, you know, that was the only, listen, I wanted his spirit to be there. So if it would be remiss of me not to articulate that point with him, even in death. Love the man.
That plaque is, if you come out of Brixton Tube Station, you take a right, you walk under the bridge, and then there's that little market there. It's above is it a restaurant? I think it is now.
It is a restaurant, exactly, Tony, a restaurant, but the chambers is still above it. There's a chambers, I forgot the name of the chambers that's there, the legal thing. But it's also on the same road as Brixton Recreation Centre. If anybody knows where Brixton Recreation Centre is, it's on that road there. Yeah,
and I seem to remember that Mr. Narayan would travel around the country giving legal advice, and I think he went to Portobello Road and would give legal advice down there at one stage as well. I think so, anyway.
Amazing. I'm sure you're right. He was supposed to be our first black MP. He was online. He was online in line, and the Labour Party disbanded him, disowned him, disbarred him, whatever it is, because he couldn't be harnessed. Now his was an indomitable spirit, amazing.
And I know that Judge Peter Herbert always bigs him up. Every time you have Mr. Herbert speak, he's done lots of talks with us. He always bigs up Rudy Narayan.
Yeah. Rudy was a monster, absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
So let's go back in time. This is a blast from the past. You might recognize yourself there, Jack. Let's see what you like back in the old days. Now, bearing in mind there's a delay on this internet, so just give it a couple of seconds before it starts to move.
Okay.
It happens now.
Jack of all trades he may be, but former social worker turned entrepreneur Jack Zubella denies he's master of none. Over the last few years, Jack has turned his hand to just about everything, from music to computer games. Now his latest venture, dubbed the Black Man's Trivial Pursuit, has hit the shops. Like its best-selling cousin, Nubian Jack is divided into categories, and players take it in turns to ask each other questions. But unlike Trivial Pursuit, all have an ethnic minority feel.
It's a wonderful way of accessing our common heritage. It's basically highlighting the things we have more in common than our differences.
What about white people, though? There's no sort of white representation on the board. Is that not
That's
racist?
actually not absolutely correct. The majority of, well, everybody in Nubian Jack is of African descent, and white people of African descent as well. I've got people like Beethoven, Bach, Ryan Giggs, two Black Queens of England.
So what gave Jack the idea?
I've lived in England all my life, and I felt that there needed to be a need for Afrocentric and ethnic representations in Britain to be able to be accessed.
Players testing the game are given questions that throw even the best quizgoer. Competitors point out it's all very educational.
Yeah, quite a lot of fun. It's very educational, very it's entertainment as well.
History, music, sports. It's very educational. It's good for the kids.
The capital's leading department stores are already selling the game, and Jack is now working on the computer version. Debbie King, Channel 1, Clapham.
But Jack, what about the white people? Any comments on that?
So here's the thing, Kwaku's online. You see, people are taking a mick out of me now, right? So I'm not going to live this down. But anyway, I think I was all rather speaky spokey there. You don't know, but yeah, that was the first game I was talking about. That's the yellow and green version. Anybody got that unopened? Boom, you're made. You're truly made. Next, let's move on.
Yes, okay, next, no problem.
That was quite cringing, ain't gonna lie.
John Richard Archer, another bad man from, this is in the Wandsworth now, in the Southland.
Yes, he's a great, he's Black Britain's first Black London mayor. He's not the first black mayor in Britain, because there was somebody else who did that. I forgot where it was, Tony. Do you know where that was? Norfolk. Norfolk. Sims. My goodness, I'm a computer man. Sims, it was somebody Sims. I don't even know that I knew that, but anyway, yes, it was something Sims, and John Archer was a Pan-Africanist, which I'm sure you know, and I had the right to do a plaque to him on Bryna Road, where he lived, and at his studio. And English Heritage approached me and said, Jack, please, can we do the Bryna Road one? And I did. I worked with them, and I said, all right, you go on with that, run with that one day. And I did the one on the studio, and I worked at the school around the four schools, worked at 4 schools. In fact, I don't know if you've got the next slide. No, don't tell me. Is the next slide to do the stamp, Tony?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll leave that then. So we did this plaque, and they put on a play, Tony, and they made me cry. These children made me cry because they did a wonderful interpretation of John Archer's life.
Can you tell us a bit more about your strategy to include schools? Because I think when we did the Phyllis Wheatley plaque, you got a school involved. So tell us a bit about how you get, and actually why you get schools involved in your plaque erections.
Yeah, to be honest, I mostly work with schools when I'm doing a plaque. In recent times, obviously, because of the thing there that I go on, I haven't really worked with schools, but I always like to include young people in these commemorations, because number one, they don't forget it. In fact, on this particular plaque, all the schools, how about this, Tony? All the schools involved, their names are written on the back of that plaque. Every student involved. And I told them, I said, every time you walk past this plaque, you remember that your name is on that. And it was also a nod to the future to say that that plaque ain't gonna go anywhere, because can you imagine those people growing up into adults and someone tries to take the plaque down? They would be like, nah, that ain't happening. So it's always good to involve young people, Tony, because we're not here, as Menelik proved, for too long.
Yeah.
We're just here, and then boom, we've got to make room for the next generation.
So on this plaque, it literally says Heritage Lottery Fund. So just of interest, do you get a whole bunch of money from the HLF, or are you constantly raising funds to do the work that you're doing?
Listen to how Tony phrased that one, Glynis. Do you get a whole bunch of money from the HLF? Why? Tony, no, I don't. And you know the answer to that, but no. But to be fair, I've had about 3 or 4 grants from them over the years. Nothing alas recently. I think my last grant from them was 2014, really. I'm more into doing for self now, and that's why I do for self. But there has been times when they've been helpful. And to do this particular tribute, it wasn't just a plaque, you see. The plaque was just one component, but it involved the book, workshops, as you know. I think I've done workshops with you, Tony, going into some of the schools as well. I think, I'm not sure, have I?
Yeah,
Remind me
yeah.
if I haven't.
Yeah, you did. And you have a book for this particular plaque, don't you?
I did do a book for that, but just wanted to explain the Heritage Lottery funding element. You have to get a project. So they won't fund you to do a plaque, and they won't fund you to do a book, but they'll fund you to do a project where you get workers like you and Robin Walker and Steve Martin going into schools, and then they produce work, which in this instance culminated in the book you're about to show. Boom. So that book there includes the works of all the children, young people, I should say, who were learning about John Archer, the wonderful John Archer. And on the cover of the book, I got somebody from Liverpool, I forgot his name now, beautiful man, to do the painting of John Archer for the book. A year or 2 later, I was contacted by the Royal Mint that said, "We've been looking for an image for John Archer. We want to put him on a stamp. And we've seen your book. Can we use the image in your book?"
Wow.
So I said, yeah. So I said, all right, let me just confirm it with the brother that painted it. And voila, that stamp is from my book. Well, it's from the brother that painted it, let's be honest. But yeah, they got it from my book that he painted for.
That's amazing, because this is a stamp that was on, letters going around the country, and it literally says in it, John Archer, the date, politician and civil rights campaigner, 92. So they're recognizing there's something taking place in this country to do with civil rights led by a black guy.
Correct. Okay, he was amazing, and he was a Pan-Africanist as well. Most of those civil rights campaigners at the time were not apologists. They were campaigners, and very proud to be campaigning for African liberation and equality.
Now, this book we're looking at here, is this still available?
Not really. I mean, there is, but I don't really sell it. I've got like a box of it somewhere.
Yeah.
Someone's asked, it's Paul something. I'll tell you the name of the person. Paul. I'll have to see if I can. Sorry, Tony. Someone asked what's the name of the painter.
Well, we did say we take questions at the end, but
yeah. Yes.
Now here's a question for you, Jack. I mean, what we've seen so far is a lot of work, right?
Indeed.
So I'm going to ask you an interesting question.
Okay.
If you put the amount of time, energy, and money that you put into doing up these plaques into having a chicken shop or a series of chicken shops,
yes,
how rich do you think you would be?
I think my middle name would be Colonel Saunders. Probably. I don't know. I don't think of it in terms like that. I think of these things in terms of cultural assets that are here to educate, and then we go on. I mean, I tell you what, I'll give a scenario. I do know this, at least I'm not falsely modest, but I do know that if Barack Obama came over here, well, I use that as a reference when he was running the thing, right? And if they had a chance to meet a brother who owned, I don't know, 10 chicken shops, 10 fish and chip shops, or 20 fish and chip shops, or we had a chance to meet Nubian Jack, I honestly believe he would have said, I'd like to meet Nubian Jack. That's what I believe. I could be wrong, but I think these things are going to outlast us. And
tell people understand the level of commitment, work, endeavor you're putting into these events. Can you tell us, right, you've done 62 plaques so far.
Yes.
Roughly, how much time and energy would it take to do one plaque, roughly, if off the top of your head? Just give us an idea.
Okay, it depends, because I've got a brilliant team, and with us, we don't know the meaning of time. We wanted to do a book launch on Monday, and we were advised by Margaret not to do it, because we would have just done the thing on Monday, bro. And with people like Dwayne and Pauline supporting, we were just going to blow up the thing. But okay, usually, look, there's a process, and what it is, you have to get permission. So first thing is to identify an individual. You take that to your panel, and they say, who should we do a plaque to? Menelik Shabazz or Justin Barrow, for instance, just an example. Yeah. And then the panel decide, and then we look for an address. And then once we've got an address, and that's approved, so you don't know how long that could take with me. But once we've got the thing, and then we start the planning, and we try to fundraise. So let's say 3 months. Let's say 3 months. That usually would be a ballpark figure, but it could be done in 6 weeks. It can't be done in less than 6 weeks, because a plaque takes 28 days to manufacture. Yeah. So there is a finite, it can't be done, within 6 weeks probably is the shortest.
But one of the things you have to deal with is the fact that if you have a famous Black person lived at a certain address, and that address is now inhabited by a person who doesn't like the person for some reason, right, that means you cannot put the plaque. If you got to wait for years, yeah, the person moves out. And I think, do you want to give us an example of that, or do you not want to mention
I can give you an example of that. Well, I gave you the Bob Marley one, but the most pressing one is, I have got the plaque and we can't do it. And that is to Marcus Garvey and Amy Garvey. Marcus and Amy Jacks, this is Amy 2, where they lived in, oh God, the road in Hammersmith. If anyone wants to let me know that word in Hammersmith. Anyway, they lived at a place in Hammersmith, and no, David, it's it doesn't matter, because it'll come back to me. They lived in Hammersmith, and I knocked on the door, and I met the man downstairs, and I said, I'd like to do a plaque to Marcus and Amy Garvey. And by the way, Kwame, by the Kenyan thing, the Kenyan Prime Minister, Premier, Spear of a Nation, Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta also lived there. So I wanted to put 2 plaques there at that address. I can see the name in my head. But anyway, the guy said, yeah, Marcus Garvey and Amy Garvey, sure. Send me an email. Gave me his email, sent him an email. He went and looked Marcus Garvey up and changed his mind. So it gets worse than that. So he was to-ing and fro-ing, and then anyway, changed his mind, and then he died. And his family then said, yes, now he's died. This is just the short version. You can put it Beaumont Crescent. No, it's not Beaumont Crescent. Not Beaumont Crescent. It's not Beaumont Crescent. You can put up a plaque. And then the people upstairs said, no, you can't do it. So, and this has nothing to do with them, because this is now going on the, so anyway, it's just one of those. Marcus and Amy Garvey, that's the plaque. I could stop doing plaques after that. It's not Talgarth Road. There's a plaque on Marcus. There is a plaque to Marcus Garvey at 53 Talgarth Road. I'm talking about another road where behind there, where he lived with Amy Garvey in the 1930s. And I'd love to honor him there. I'd love to.
I'm sure it'll come to you later on.
Yeah, it will, yeah.
New Cross Fire. So we're in London again. Jack, what about this one?
This is my saddest plaque. I'm just going to try and find 2 things here. Garvey. Sorry, Tone, I'm just, me, I'm going to multitask. Right. Why is it doing that? I'm trying to get the Garvey thing. Anyway, okay. Let's do that. Okay, never mind. All right. Yeah, my saddest plaque, Tony, because those 14 people lost their life. It's also the most controversial plaque I've ever done, and also the largest plaque I've ever done. I had 1,000 people on the street, 900 plus, and I had everybody here. The Black Police Association, the Black Firemen Association, everybody came out. And TFL said, yep, just shut the road down. Traffic's gonna have to go the long way round, you understand? And it was to these 14 people who lost their life tragically, as we all know the story. I'm gonna tell you, but I have to tell you about this really. So first of all, I'm not gonna go there in this thread, but the circumstances around their death is very conflicting. I'll just use it that way. It's very, very conflicting. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I've been exposed to some information and it's very uncomfortable. However, I'm beginning to reassess what I've been told and kind of beginning to again go by the establishment that there was a racial element to it. There certainly was a racial element to the way it was, it was addressed afterwards, as we all know. But it's a very odd one. That's what I'm going to say.
Because actually, I should remind people, week after next, Steve McQueen has a series of films, I think they're titled Uprisings. They're looking at the New Crossfire, they're looking at the Brixton riots, and looking at the Black People's Day of Action. And that's taking place around the 21st, 22nd of July on BBC, 3 films from Steve McQueen.
Right.
Let us speak about this image of you holding a certain plaque. Tell us about what's happening here.
Okay, so that is the second plaque I did to Bob. This is to the Whalers. Tony, did you sponsor this one? I don't think you did. Did you? No, you didn't sponsor this one. Yeah. No. So this is sponsored by Tony. What's his name, man? Horn, Peter Horn, Stuart Horn. The guy who produced Seal and Cloudy. God, my brain's going. What's the little short girl who's from Australia? Trevor. That's it. Trevor Horn. Trevor Horn, and it's all going to come back to me. Kylie Minogue and all the rest of it. Anyway, he sponsored this plaque. That's it, Kylie. That's it. And he's a multimillionaire, so that's the least he could do, right? But anyway, we put it up at the Old Island Studios, which he now owns. And the plaque I'm holding is in memory to his. At the bottom, it says in memory to Jill Sinclair, who was his wife, who died prematurely. But it is to Bob, Bunny, and now the late great, Bunny, but Bob, Peter, and now the late great Bunny, who died last year. Because that particular building used to be a church one time, then it was Basing Street Studios or Island Studios. And Correct.
then people like Grace Jones and Seal and the Pet Shop Boys would all go and record there.
Yes.
It was a big one, I think.
It was. It really was a big place. And it got taken over by Psalm Records.
Yes.
And that's who Trevor Horn owns.
Right. And now it's luxury flats, they changed it up.
Yes, I've seen, and that's where we put it up. It's actually up on the luxury flats, actually.
And actually, it is 2 minutes walk from the famous Mangrove, which we'll see shortly later on.
Yes. Do you know what, Don? Most of my plaques are in Ladbroke Grove. I've got 12 plaques in not Ladbroke Grove, in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. There's a concentrated area where I have about 7 or 8 of them in Ladbroke Grove, from Kelso to this one. And then the others are disparately spread around the borough, but yeah.
And this one's really easy to see because it's just above kind of head height. So you get a fair amount of tourists who walk past and will stop and take pictures of it. So that's a really good, well-positioned one, isn't it?
It is.
If it wasn't for that plaque, actually, it's a good point because now the place is luxury flats. If it wasn't for that plaque there, people would have no idea as to the history of that street at all.
And that's what the plaques are for, Tony, to commemorate, to say we was here, and to commemorate it in bronze or aluminium or silver or steel.
And people love Bob Marley.
Yes, they do. They do.
George Padmore. This is in Camden. Oh.
Yes. George Padmore. Are we going to have a break, Tony? You're working me, bruv. Okay.
No, there's no break. It's what we've done in 40 minutes or so. Then we'll...
No worries, nothing. George Padmore founded the Blueprint for Pan-Africanism. Wonderful man. We installed this plaque, got on TV, was supported by all the kind of, I don't want to call them Marxists, but the kind of Pan-Africanist, Marxist type solidarity groups from New Beacon Books and Sarah White. Sarah White, who's John LaRose's wife, John LaRose, the amazing, phenomenal John LaRose, who founded African Books in this country and New Beacon Books and stuff. The African Book Fair he founded. Yeah. Well, when we did this plaque to George, they funded it, they sponsored it. Wow. Them and Camden Council sponsored the plaque to George, and it's on the house where he lived with his English girlfriend before he went off to Ghana, where he was laid to rest.
Yeah, George Palmer is a real legend. who's again, he's not as well known as he should be. Bearing in mind his influence is incredible, what he was doing.
He should be better known, but he's amazing. He's that. Well, when you say he developed the blueprint for Pan-Africanism, that tells you, you know, a lot. I mean, he worked in Kwame Nkrumah's government. He is a phenomenal mind. Actually went to Russia. Went to Russia. Was part of the Politburo. This man has a story that somebody should be doing a film about him. Amazing.
Well, he does feature in there's a film by Francis Solomon called Hero, H-E-R-O, Hero. It's about Ulrich Cross. Ulrich Cross, of course, worked with a new George Padmore. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
And actually, George Padmore was under surveillance because, well, he was under surveillance. Leave it at that.
Because it's communist. They basically, he was a Marxist, and in the end, he fell out with Marxism because it was incompatible ultimately with Pan-Africanism. It has a use, it has a great use for like socialism, but ultimately, when you're dealing with Pan-Africanism, you'll ultimately find that, you know, I don't know how much Karl Marx was into African. By the way, this is no way a slight on Karl Marx, because I think he's amazing, and he's in one of the books, a book that I've written called The Last Game of Chess, which is going to change the world. But that's another story for part 3. But yeah, no, this guy's amazing, George Padmore.
Speaking of Camden, Jack, isn't there a plaque in Camden to Kwame Nkrumah? I'm not sure if it's one of yours. But
it's not mine. It's English Heritage. It's English Heritage, and there is, yeah. This is when they stole the mark.
George Padmore and Nkrumah lived in the same borough.
Amazing. Not a surprise. Oh, look at that. You've just given me something beautiful. That absolutely. And he ends up in Kwame Nkrumah's government, you know, as his advisor.
And that's walking distance, you know, from the street where Nkrumah was living to Grand Street. You can walk there. It's not far at all.
Is that one of your routes?
No.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned Ronnie already, so we can.
Yeah, this is a surprise.
But this one now. Wow.
Okay, so this is Frank Gilbert Critchlow. Without Frank, we have no Christine Keeler, because without Frank, there is no restaurant, which is before the Mangrove. So Lucky Gordon doesn't go in and pimp Christine Keeler to what's his name, Tony?
You got me now. Profumo. Sorry, yes.
So it is because of Frank Critchlow indirectly that the Conservative government of the late 1950s, is that right? Early 60s, whenever it was, got taken down. Just for that, he had to get a plaque. But also, where that plaque is, Frank Gilbert Critchlow, I, as a young teenager, used to sell my, I used to have a sole trader business on the line, you know, doing what homeopathic remedies it was at the time, in betting slips. And I nearly lost my life for that, you know. But that was kind of the making of me. Again, I'm going off Fred, but that was the life I had as a young, bleach-haired, beautiful-looking boy. Because I was different, brother. Had the fire in the eye, and like I said, had my sole trader business. But I looked like a pop star.
So this is All Saints Road, known as the Frontline. Now, for those who are not from London or don't know history, can you explain why was that area called the Frontline? What happened there? Tell us a bit about the Frontline, please.
Okay, so this one you're going to get me now. I don't want to make it up.
Well, actually, if we look at it from the policing perspective, because we have video of the police driving on that street harassing black people, so you can come from that angle if you wish.
Right. Okay. So Mangrove was an iconic and pioneering shop. And a lot of people used to frequent there, from Diana Ross to Muhammad Ali, and
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course, perhaps, but no, I was going to say perhaps lesser desirable, but that's not true, because Frank made sure that no. But what you actually, so that you saw Mangrove. To be honest with you, I'm only telling you what Steve sanitized a bit. But I must say it was one of his better outings. And yeah, so Frank had this shop, and the police were harassing him because, you know, in the 70s we weren't supposed to own anything, right? And particularly on the iconic front line. I don't know what else you want me to say, Tony.
All right, no, I'm just trying to illustrate for people how important that particular location and venue was, because at one time they had a majority of Black businesses based there. In the Mangrove itself, if I remember correctly, there was a lawyer who would give legal advice to young
That's
Black men.
Jeb Johnson. Jeb Johnson, right across the road. Yeah, Jeb Johnson. Right, you're talking into my time now, my territory. Yeah. So Jeb Johnson used to provide legal advice. Little short Jeb, wonderful, wonderful lad, man, and used to provide legal advice for us to, not so much me, because I was morphing from a Christian, my Christian outlook on life, to assuaging into becoming a Rastafari via having bleached hair. Again, that's a long story. We'll leave that for chapter 4. Yeah, there was lots of things on the line. And one of the things I used to do, Tony, I used to leave school, and there's a Tesco just around the corner from the front line. And I used to go there and steal beers, because they used to have beers in crates. And I used to steal the beer and go on the front line and sell it. I'm 17 now, 16, 17. So that, yeah, that's how we used to roll, bruv. Come on, man. The world was innocent, and it was a beautiful place.
Wasn't the Mangrove also the office for the Black Panthers in the area?
That one I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Yeah, Dark used to hang out there. Remember Dark was doing that stuff?
Of course, yes, definitely. And also the band All Saints, for those who don't know, Ronnie Laws used to have his record management company there, right on the corner. And the band All Saints were formed there. So was Marcus, Return of the Mac, Mark Morrison. And I remember going into there as a young 20 something year old, 21 maybe, 22, and meeting Ronnie Laws, because I wanted management, and I shouldn't be telling you all this. I'm just chatting now for the sake of conversation. But he was like, your attitude is too bad. I can't manage you. Your attitude is too bad. I think he said your attitude stinks. I think he probably said that. And I didn't give the rest. And because I was very angry with the world at the time. And maybe I just wasn't good enough. Maybe he was just giving an excuse. Let's not forget that. Because if I was that good, he would have found a way of managing me, right? Yeah. But I was managed by Marvin Gaye's manager and Bob Marley's manager, Don Taylor. So
say that again, please.
I was, you know that, don't you?
No, I don't.
I got one on you, bro. Yes, I was managed by Don Taylor, the late great Don Taylor, who managed Marvin Gaye, the Jazzy B, and Bob Marley.
Good grief.
Goodness me, I knew that one, Tony.
So you could have been a big R&B star.
I could have been a contender. All
right then.
I'd rather do plaques, man. Ja wanted me to do plaques.
Speaking of big stars, you got one of the biggest reggae stars ever. This is up in Harleston.
Harleston. Yeah. The wonderful Dennis Brown. What do you want me to say? I mean, do you know what it means to have a revolution? Because he certainly did. Amazing Dennis Brown. It was a pleasure. One of the things when you do plaques, you get people's sound, but you get exposed to them. So you learn who the individuals were. And Dennis was a monster. He was the Crown Prince, as Bob called him, the Crown Prince of reggae. And the plaque was unveiled. That plaque is on his brother's house, Leroy Brown. And I didn't make that up. That's his name. And yes, he is a bad boy. And that's on Leroy's house. Yeah, Leroy
2012.
Brown.
This is around the time of the Olympics, isn't it? Because that's in.
Yes. I think that year I did about 5 or 6 plaques. That was a prolific year for us. 2012.
You got Jamaica High Commission, Federation of Reggae Artists, and Greensleeves Records all helping you with this particular plaque.
Yeah. Yes, they were. And also, there's a Federation of Reggae Artists was Delroy Washington. Delroy Washington. It was the first plaque Delroy Washington was involved with. He subsequently went on to do a few plaques. And Delroy, for those who don't know, sadly, we lost to COVID last year. Amazing brother and a reggae star in his own right. He was the British Dennis Brown in many respects.
Amazing. So we mentioned Phyllis Wheatley before, and I learned from the mistakes I made in the past with Dr. Harold Moody's plaque. So This is a video of the Phillis Wheatley unveiling. So let's have a look at this and see if you recognize yourself in this one, Jack.
Okay.
A motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a mother.
I first heard about Phillis in around 2013, and ever since then I've been researching and writing.
We must remind ourselves that there are a lot of successful, important, creative people in our race.
I had heard of Phillis Wheatley's name before. I wouldn't have been able to tell you before today exactly who she was, what she did, and her prominence in the culture.
Today we honoured a very important pioneering woman writer with a blue plaque. Because on this very day, approximately 246 years ago, in around the month of July, the second week in July, Phillis Wheatley, this outstanding African-American prodigy, came to this actual Fear Island, came to this actual space, this area. In fact, she came to number 8 Aldgate, and we've put a plaque on the very site where her publishers published her very first book.
Apparently, the ship gave her the name Phillis.
Phillis Wheatley is a legend. She deserves to be recognized and picked up as much as possible, and that's what we're here to do today.
I think it's an absolute honour. I hadn't actually heard of Wheatley before the last couple of days when I got the invite, so it's really, really pleasurable to find out a bit more about Black history. I think it's such a shame it's not actually taught in school.
She stands as a role model as well for many girls who, many young women who perhaps would like to pursue a career in publishing, in writing.
Hello, we have made a poem that reflects the legacy of Phillis Wheatley and the impact she has made on society today and many generations. Personally, when finding out about Phillis Wheatley's life, I've been greatly inspired because she was enslaved and she was a Black female and she was able to achieve so many profound things. So I feel like I should be able to achieve many amazing things myself. Our hands and heads up high for a Miss Phillis Wheatley, giving both females and Black backgrounds a new opportunity in life. For ours and your love be strong.
I think really Phillis Wheatley is probably better known and appreciated here than in my own country. I do feel that in terms of what I learned in my schools. And I would also like to say that Phillis Wheatley is not only the first Black American female author published, she is one of the most notable authors.
There are Black history, Black cultural, Black identity events in London almost every day of the year. Tony Warner is one of the foundation organizations for that. Black History Walks has been consistent. He's branched out in films. He's branched out in boat cruises.
It's lovely that we have brothers like Dr. Jack and Brother Tony Warner who allow us this opportunity to go back and fetch the people on whose shoulders we stand upon.
It was a fabulous day. I have to big up Jack, the Blue Plaque team, committee, everybody that was here, who just came to support, all the movers. I saw movers and shakers here.
It's enriching and liberating to be here and to just see the tenacity of a woman that had much more tribulations than I'll ever have.
Filled with a deep pride that my literary contribution to the world is being honoured with this plaque.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Nubian Jack Community Trust on this site in September 1773, Abel Booksellers published a volume of poems by Phillis Wheatley.
So, Jack, does that bring back any memories for you?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It was a beautiful day, and we worked with a school, didn't we? We worked with a school who you saw some of the young people speaking. It was a wonderful day. You were the sponsor of that. You also were in. I don't know. I don't think you turned up in uniform. Before that.
Not that time, no.
Not that time, no. But yeah, it was great, man. I really just bringing it back. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you even managed to get the U.S. Embassy under Trump to put in some assistance for that particular plaque, which is an amazing feat, all that stuff. But that's another long story.
Yeah, another long story for chapter 5. But that's the least they could do. I mean, look what they did to the woman. They wouldn't publish, she couldn't publish a book in America. She had to come over here. When you think about, I don't want to get all kind of heavy and stuff, but when you think about the terrorism that our ancestors have had to endure, and stuff, in many respects are still enduring, it's really, it's terrible. But yeah, they wouldn't allow her to write her book, to publish her book, so she had to get it published across the sea in England. You couldn't make it up.
The location is like a minute's walk from Aldgate and Aldgate East tube stations. It's on the side of a 4-star hotel. It's a really nice little spot there. So again, if you're interested, you can just take the tube down there tomorrow and have a look at it. And again, if it wasn't for this plaque, people would have no clue whatsoever, because when we did the unveiling, there were people who were staying in the hotel who were freaking out. The African Americans were like, "What? This was here?" They couldn't believe it.
Absolutely correct. They had no idea, and you can't blame them, because obviously the original building isn't there anymore, and we've put it on the hotel, which is exactly the same spot where the publishers, published her book. So yeah, that's what all of this is about, isn't it? We're just educating people, educating the world, and now we're going to go across the sea. We are taking. We're going to do a plaque in America. You might be coming on to that, I don't know, but just in case you're not, our first international plaque is going to be in November the 19th, to Martin Luther King.
Oh, are you serious?
Oh, brother, yeah. We're doing Martin Luther King in America, in Camden, New Jersey, on the 19th of November. So Nubian Jack down international.
What? Yeah. That's okay. Respect for that one. We'll have to kind of get some more info and put it out to the people so people know, because I didn't know that until you just told me just 2 minutes ago. So
oh, did you know? Okay, sorry. Cool.
I had no clue, man.
Okay.
All right, so Emma Clark is a name that may or may not be familiar, depending on how much you're into Black history. But again, down to the hard work of Nubian Jack, there is now a plaque in honor of Emma Clark up in North London on Campsbourne School, and Channel 5 in this case came down to record the activity. Let's check it out now.
1995, the first ever black female footballer in the UK made her debut. More than 10,000 people paid to watch Emma Clark play in a London park, and now, more than a century later, fans gathered there once again to remember her. Catherine Nash joined them.
Not many people know that much about Emma Clark, the first British black female footballer who, along with her sisters, played at many of our famous stadiums, including Wembley and St James's Park. But today a blue plaque was unveiled at a school in North London, the site of her very first club. For her great-grandnephew, it was a humbling experience, her recognition long overdue.
For many, many years in our family, stories passed down, so to be here to see it all coming to light in 2019 from that first game in 1895 just around the corner has been an absolute honour.
Emma Clark was a pioneer in a number of different ways. The colour of her skin and the fact she was female has paved the way for the growth of women's football as we know it today.
It's amazing that girls have that opportunity, and it's like everywhere. There are so many good clubs and we have the opportunity and we're allowed to play, and it's just amazing. Like, I love football.
I enjoy working with my teammates and trying to score some goals.
It basically inspires all of us, which I really enjoy, because little kids can look up to us and maybe enjoy football as well.
Emma Clark's skill and passion for football is now part of British sporting history. A pioneering sportswoman who broke down barriers so young women can play with the freedom they do today. Catherine Nash, 5 News.
Yeah, Jack, didn't you organise like a football tournament up there, which is now a regular annual thing?
Yeah, every year you've got a football tournament called Emma Clark Cup. involving 8 schools, and yeah, we founded that tournament. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that's headmaster's guy called Jonathan Smith, and he was well, the kids just loved the whole event. You know, they went mad for it. I mean, that's not mad, but they really loved it, and they were so excited to have the plaque there. And it's actually on the front of the school. So as you walk into the school, if you're a kid, you see it every single day.
Every day. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful plaque, Tony. One of the well, all of the plaques that you sponsored. How many plaques have you sponsored? Is it 5?
5 or 6, I think it is. That's
6. Wow. That's great, Tony. That's the 1/10 of my plaques.
There's more to come, don't worry. More to come, as we both know. And actually, here's one of them. So we're going to go to Tottenham Court Road. You can just see there's a big old street there called Great Russell Street. Now, Great Russell Street was the center of Black British civil rights in the 1930s. And again, thanks to Nubian Jack and some activists, we actually put up a plaque. Hold on a second. At the YMCA. Now, YMCA is well, it's a newish building now, but that venue, that site, was the site of the old YMCA back in 1931, and that was where Dr. Harold Moody convened the League of Colored Peoples, and they were fighting for equality in housing, education, employment, and the military. So they did a whole bunch of work from that particular venue right there, and thanks to Mr. Jack, we did this. Off you go, Jack.
Yes, we did. Harold Moody was the original Martin Luther King, it must be said. He is a titan of a civil rights activist, and it was a pleasure for us, through you, Tony, because I actually didn't know that he had, because he originally had a plaque there, didn't he? And
inside,
that
yeah, inside the YMCA.
Yeah. So that plaque got taken down, which made it easy for us to install this one. And it was a great day. We had the family, Dr. Harold Moody's family, and we also had the Camden Mayor and the Westminster Mayor, which is also a queue, because the plaque is right in the middle of Westminster and Camden. And I was acting like the United Nations delegate, you know, officiating the two, as it were. But it was a brilliant day, another wonderful day. I have to tell you, at the 62 plaques, it's rained once. That's mystical in itself. 62 plaques rained once.
Wow.
Beat that.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this plaque is that I know that Jack wrote to all the big media companies, all newspapers, all TV companies. None of them came down. So when it came to the actual publicity, we got publicity in the New Zealand local newspaper and the YMCA journal and one of the periodical. And that kind of really freaked me out, because I'm thinking, how was there such little press interest in such an enormous character in Black history? And that's when I said, look, the next time I do anything so, I'm going to pay for the filming and all the rest of it myself. Learn these people to actually treat with respect.
Yes, I got used to it. And they even do, like you probably didn't notice, even that clip you just showed of Emma Clark, they made no mention of Nubian Jack. There was not me interviewed. You were not interviewed. They didn't do a close up on the plaque. So I've learned to just do the plaques and let them be and fly. That doesn't bother me no more, Tone. They can film it. They don't have to come. I don't business.
Speaking about football, did you see the headlines for the victory yesterday? Because you know,
let me tell you, before you lead me, you know I'm obsessed with football, and I'm so glad you didn't have the show on yesterday, because I'm telling you, bruv, it wouldn't have happened. I would have had to be watching the England match. Anyway, that's another story. All I saw was Harry Kane all over the team. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about, because Sterling scores the first goal, which sets them up for the victory, but he's on the front page apart from one newspaper.
Yeah, I saw, and that was I saw. Of course, I'm going to see that, Tone. But you know what? Like I said, I hope other people can see it. That's where I'm at. I don't lament. I don't whine. I'm just like, you know what? Everybody knows Sterling has got us through to where we are today. He scored the decisive goal. I ain't gonna lie, I was glad when Harry Kane scored. I was glad. I thought that means we're going through, because he see it. But when I looked at the headlines, I thought, oh, it's all Kane, is it? Okay. But people know. So this is what they do. They think people are stupid. People are not stupid. That's what you've got to understand. Sometimes don't get drawn into it. People are not stupid. They're people, and white people are thinking the same thing. They're thinking, hold on a minute. Okay, so Kane gets a goal, but you know, so I'm not even bother with that one, really.
So here's a picture of the actual day. Oh, look, there's Neil Flanagan. Oh, we should listen. Jack, say a few things about Mr. Flanagan if you want to. That is, if you know much about him, because
I love Neil.
I mean,
I love Neil.
For the people who are watching, you see that you have the two mayors. Then there's that guy in the blue shirt there. Then next to him, there's an old bald man. That man is Mr. Neil Flanagan, who's a veteran of World War II and a member of the West Indian Ex-Services Association. And he's done so much work. Jack, over to you, man.
He has done a lot of work, and he's an amazing man, and he's an elder that we should revere and honor while he's still with us, because, you know, people are getting to the age now where they kind of, you know, with respect, are beginning to pop off. But he's got a lot of life in him. He's got a lot of energy, and we do events that it keeps him active. The only one thing I will say, he needs to be paid. Everything he does, and rightly so. You know, are you paying my cab? Are you doing this and that?
Yeah. We need to give him money.
I'm going to be like that. I'm going to take a leaf out of his book.
No,
He's amazing.
Those veterans didn't get treated good at all for like 50, 60 years. So whenever I have them come to my events, I always make sure, listen, here's your cab, here's your appearance fee. There's no arguing. They need that money because they deserve it in the first place.
Right.
And it helps to make them feel appreciated for all the disrespect they got for the last 50 odd years or so.
Correct. Yes.
Also got to shout out Esther Anderson. So next to Mr. Flanagan, you have Esther Anderson, who was an actress who performed alongside Sidney Poitier in a film called The Warm December. So Esther Anderson, Esther Anderson produced a film on Bob Marley, because she was Bob Marley's girlfriend back in the 70s, and she actually helped him create some of his songs. But another long story for another time.
All right, good. I'll leave it then. I was going to add to that, but good. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, this is a bit about how important Harold Moody was and why. So let's have a look at this. Well, it seems to have frozen, so let me just try something else. If I can go out and come back in again. It's going to work now.
The Italian invasion of Ethiopia in 1935. That is what politicises the League of Coloured Peoples. No longer can the League merely talk in terms of amelioration of people's condition. Here is a real issue where black people are being machine gunned and gassed and bombed by a European power, which is a member of the League of Nations attacking another member of the League of Nations. And there are protest meetings. It's a real issue. They go into campaign mode to try and deal with this. It's an enormous problem because, after all, Ethiopia is defeated and the Western powers are eager to appease fascist Italy. But what it does do is to give an added Pan-African dimension to the work of the League.
March, march, march to victory. March, march, march to victory. We fight land, sea and...
This new dimension became increasingly important with the rise of fascism. With war looming, Britain was relying on its subjects in the empire. But if you are a black recruit, you are limited to serving in the non-commissioned ranks. You are no more than an unskilled laborer, a second-class citizen in the armed service.
All West Indians will do their share.
Moody took up their cause.
He sought initially an assurance from the Secretary of State that the British government was opposed to discrimination on race or colour lines anywhere in the empire, which MacDonald, the Secretary of State, was willing to give him until he's warned by somebody in the Colonial Office that you can't do this because the empire includes South Africa and that's obviously going too far. So he backs out and puts Moody off and never gets around to meeting him again.
Fight land, sea and in the air, on to victory.
Then you have these exceptions made in the army. The Dental Corps first, then Moody's son is sent for officer training. These are only to be for the duration of the war. And after the war, they are to revert to the previous policy.
The Colonial Office response, as is the Home Office and the legal offices of the government, is how do you actually bring in this kind of legislation? How do you say to people who own restaurants or run hotels, you mustn't discriminate against black people?
Interestingly, In the RAF, despite on paper having the colour bar, they are in fact giving commissions on a non-restrictive basis.
By 1941, a redrafting of the regulation was being considered at the Home Office. But even then, the Colonial Office was unwilling to let the change be directly attributed to Harold Moody, as this memo shows.
But I think what Moody does is, by his gradual pressure, and it's the pressure of the League, is to gradually change the attitude of government and to make them aware that there is a question that has to be dealt with. The fact that they are dealt with much later perhaps owes something to Moody's pressure and his vision of the kind of multiracial Britain that he wanted.
So Harold Moody, you could do a whole hour on him, but he helps to, or he spearheads the breaking down the colour bar in World War II, because as a black person, you couldn't become an officer up until World War II, and he helps to make that a permanent thing once the war is over. I mean, like I said, we could talk to him for ages, but let me move on.
Yeah.
This is our organization. I got a shout out. Hold on a second, this is now stuck again. The Sarah Parker Remond Center, because they are collaborating with us to do these kind of events online, and on their website they have all of our previous lectures in association with them, and they also have a podcast which covers a number of different topics to do with race and racialization and Black history in effect. So they're doing an amazing, massive amount of work, and that's their podcast site. So if you're interested, check out Sarah Parker Remond Center, check out their podcast, check out their website, and follow them, because they're doing work like this as a regular thing. And actually, the Sarah Parker Remond Center was born out of student protests in 2019, not last year, we're talking about 2019. There's a number of different student protests across the capital, across the country rather, and as a result of those students protesting for diversity in the curriculum, for Black history in the on the topics they study, and also a number of Black people on the staff, that's what's led to the establishment of the Sarah Parker Remond Center at UCL. So check out their work. Now, see if you recognize this young fellow, and actually follow the story in this music video. Check out this video. I have it.
Yeah. Big up our massive, our crew. As in the end, love is all we need. It is. How does it feel to finally be free? Wonder will I ever know? Sometimes I dream of how it would be to have a life that I own. When you look at me, what do you see? Do you understand my story? All I want is love for someone else to see. If you took the time, I'd have a song, yeah. So long, I've been searching for someone that I'm probably not meant to find. No matter how hard it gets, no matter when the tears fall, nothing can stop us from trying. Oh, when you look at me, what do you see? Do you understand my story? All I want is love, someone else to see. If you took the time, I have a song. Some call me a villain, some me favor alien. Make me walk 1,000,000 miles to be free. Just to make a living and stop the killing and spread a little loving, cause love is all we need. In at the ends cause love conquers all. United we stand and divided we fall. A time when no we see at the time if we stand tall. Me I look to one of you answer the call. When you look at me, What do you see? Do you understand my story? All I want is love, someone else to see. If you took the time, I have a song. When you look at me, what do you see? Do you understand my story? All I want is love, someone else to see. If you took the time, I have a song. Love is all we need. Love is all we need in the end. 'Cause love conquers all. Selassie,
Oh, can't see that. Shortly.
Right, that video was from Nubian Jack, starring Nubian Jack, telling the story of nurses from African Caribbean who came to work here to support the NHS in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, etc. You can watch it online, and it was part of a fundraising campaign to raise funds for this statue. I've got a bunch of questions to ask you, Jack, but tell us about this statue first of all, please.
Okay, so this statue is in honor of NHS nurses. Thank you for showing the video. It's being supported by Islington Council, of which 2 representatives are here today, Dwayne Brown and Pauline Foster, and Whittington Hospital, where the statue will be erected. It was to be installed on Monday, which is the 5th of July, NHS Day, but it's been moved to later in the month, and it's probably going to be installed on the 30th of July, but I'll have to confirm that with my esteemed colleagues. Who, by the way, it'd be nice to ask them some questions because they're very, very, very supportive, Dwayne and Pauline.
All right, fine. I want to ask you a question about that doctor in that video, but let me just stop talking now because that's the scruffiest doctor I've ever seen in my life. But let's take some questions from the crowd, the audience rather. So if you got a question for Mr. Nubian Jack, it's time now to type it into the chat box and ask away. So you got 10, 20 minutes or so maybe at the most to ask questions of Mr. Nubian Jack. And just type in the chat box rather, and Jack will take it from there. So over to you. Actually, no, Jack, tell me, that doctor, man, where did you get that doctor from?
So I hired that doctor's uniform. We had doctors and nurses, and we had fun playing doctors and nurses. I'm obsessed with these jokes today. But it was, doctor's uniform, and we actually hired a hospital. We did that at I forgot the name of the hospital now. Maudsley Hospital. Maudsley Hospital in South London. They gave us a whole unit to film that promo video. And as you rightly said, it's about the NHS nurses. One nurse in particular, it was about Blossom Jackson, who played my mother, who was a pioneering nurse. And Jackie, the nurse there, the younger version of her is Jackie Morrison, who's another member of the Nubian Jack team. It's outstanding, amazing sister. I don't even know if she's listening, actually. I wonder if she's listening. If she is, big up Jackie. Big up our Massive crew.
All right, Veronica's asking you, Jack, do you have a book of your plaques? And Nicole's saying the same thing. Would you consider putting together a book together of all your amazing plaques?
I haven't. Sorry, I would, but I haven't got that. But someone's beaten me to the punch. Her name is Avril Nanton. Bless her, was on the phone today. And another little joke there, but I'll leave it alone. But yeah, we'll tell you the joke. So she was calling me today to find out she needed some publicity for her book. And so she wanted to go to, because I've done the largest, or we've done the largest blue plaque in the world as well, to Nottingham Carnival Pioneers. So I've given her access to get publicity for her book, my plaque. And why not, man? She's a beautiful sister. But yeah, I will be planning to do that book on blue plaques and black plaques in the future.
Jeanette's asking you, do you need people to join the team? Do you need people to join the Nubian Jack team?
Yes, and yes, and yes, most definitely. Particularly if you've got long legs and you're single, we need that as well. But
Malcolm says, are there plans to have an app version of that board game? Would be invaluable to many youngsters.
I already have one. They can go to Google Store, type in Nubian Jack 3D and download a copy of Nubian Jack, the app. You can get it for, I think it's 99 cents. So I already have one, but I do need to update it. Okay, back to the previous question. Yeah, we're always looking for people, male and female, of course, to volunteer because we are a charity. We need people who've got social media skills in particular. So if anybody would like to come and join us and make history, because we've got some amazing things about to happen, one of which is, of course, installing this historic statue, which, believe me, is going to go around the world when we install that. But we also need people, you know, hands to the pump, fundraisers, administrators, male and female, yeah, people to help us update our website. And you have to be committed, African-centered, clean-hearted. This is no jokes now, because we do have a core team of 4 people, and they are amazing. And we have quite a few volunteers. But if you want to come with us on a journey to change the world, we need you, and we're waiting for you. And I believe someone on this platform will be a new member of this team within the next week or 2. I hope so.
Sondai says, is there a timeline for a plaque to Menelik Shabazz?
Right, that's too raw at the moment. Menelik is a brother near and dear to all of us, and he's just passed. So we need to let Menelik rise on the winds of my heart, be favored by our ancestors, and rest in perfect peace and power before we start talking plaques to Menelik, but he will get one.
Veronica says, have you thought of working with universities?
The question would have been, what was the last university I worked with? Hello, of course I worked with universities. Ask her why, and secondly, is she paying?
Okay, someone's asking, do you do plaques outside of London?
We do. Just explained that we're doing one in America, but we have one in Wales. That's our first international plaque. But yeah, we got 2 in Birmingham, 1 in Nottingham, well, 2 in Seaford. Yeah, we've got plaques around the country, but that's a very good question. We need to have more plaques referencing the Black presence in Britain, not just London. So we do want to do a lot more. This light's very sharp.
Beck says, how do you choose your next project with all the deserving figures?
Okay, so what we do is we have a panel, and the panel discuss, as I said earlier. We discuss who would be worthy, who we think would be worthy, and then I make the last decision more often than not. But yeah, it's a group decision, obviously. And usually whoever we decide on is a worthy recipient, because there's so many people. We've done 62 plaques and we could do 1,062 and it wouldn't be enough.
Veronica says, Goldsmiths Master of Arts in Race, Culture and Education, yes, we will pay. So I think that's where the question came from. She's saying that they're willing to pay for your.
I did my master's at Goldsmiths, so I would love to work with Goldsmiths. In fact, the New Cross fire plaque is just around the corner from Goldsmiths. So yeah, please reach out to us. If they can put their email in the chat room, or just contact
you at nubianjack.com, isn't it? Nubianjack.
There you go.
Website is nubianjack.com.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, do you have a donation link on your website?
We have it on the crowdfunder. Q again, Wayne, to put the thing back in there for them to see it. Yeah, we do. It is on crowdfunder.co.uk/Nubian-Jack. And we do have one on our website as well. Like I said, those sort of things, I'm not the one who does that, but yeah, I believe it is there. There you go, Pauline. Woo.
Lady M says, how do I join as a volunteer? I presume you go for the website too.
You can send us an email and then we'll interview you by Zoom. I've got a great team and we will discuss look, we need as much volunteers as possible. I'm going to re-stress, we need people who are skilled in social media, because that's the key to taking this to an international project and movement, because that's what we've got. We've got something which is a tremor, and it's for Black pride, for Black magic, for Black excellence. And I don't have skills in social media. So, anybody who does, please come and join the team. If you've got skills in fundraising, please come and join the team. If you've got skills in organizing, come, we're waiting to meet you. We need.
So Carla says about the music video with you in it. She said she enjoyed it. Damien says it's inspirational. Nicole says she loved the song. Jacqueline says, I'm crying. Thank you for seeing us. Beverly says, props, respect, one love. Jennifer says, brat brat about your video, Jack.
Ask her, what does brat brat mean? Because I was educated. I don't understand the term brat brat. Okay, louder. May I yard you to know? And I want to switch panel. Okay, thank you for all the love and salutations. We do, it's all good, but ultimately it's about the nurses. And that's why I don't get carried away, because we have so much work to do. It's frankly a disgrace that we are having to design a statue and fund it ourselves, fundraise, no money from the government or anything. So I don't like to get too heavy. I like to be, as you can all see, a little bit shallow and a little bit fluffy and a little bit not too serious. But there is a serious side to what we're doing, and that is to memorialize the nurses who for the last 73 years have not been recognized. This is only the 4th statue to a Black woman in this, it's going to swear, in this country. It's a disgrace. That's a disgrace. The 4th statue to a female Black female form. Yeah, the first is the bronze Black woman, or the bronze woman. Second is Mary Seacole. And the third is to Kelly Holmes, statue to Kelly Holmes. Trust me, there's no other statue to Black women. None. And this one is to the Black nurses and midwives all over the country. And it's 7 foot high, 7 foot wide. In fact, here it is. Here it is. This is what I've designed, which is going to be installed at Whittington Hospital in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. And
Damien says, or Dwayne rather says, get behind the crowdfunding by donating and sharing with friends, family, network, and colleagues. And he's put the crowdfunder into the chat box so you can all access it and see it, and they should all click on it and put some money there right now. Also, there's the blackhistorywalks.co.uk website, so you can check out other events like this. And in fact, don't forget there's going to be a part 2, because we've not done all 60 plaques. We've only done, like, I think 20 of them. So there's going to be a part 2 of this. It'll be announced via the website in the near future. So make sure you go to the website, add yourself to the mail list so you get our newsletter, so you know what's going to come up and when and where, etc. And check out further events. Jack, I've got to say thank you very much. And thanks to the audience too.
Let me just say one thing before I go. One thing I want to say before I go is Castletown Road, where the Marcus Garvey plaque in Hammersmith is Castletown Road, number 57, Castletown Road. And that deserves a brat brat.
All right, well, that's it for now. You've got 2 minutes to say goodbye or express your little yourselves with regard to what you're feeling. And then we're going to switch off this stream and we can go and eat some food, have a shower, put the kids to bed, etc. So whatever we need to do. So 2 minutes before we switch off, again, thank you, Mr. Nubian Jack. Thank you to our audience. And we'll be back again on this platform to look at some other Black historical events.
Thank you.
2 minutes counting down from now.